Another historic twist in the crazy race for the White House 2024. Biden is out, becoming the first US president not to seek re-election since 1968. He's endorsed his Vice President Kamala Harris, but other big-name Democrats have not. Can she seize the crown? Trump's putting on a brave face, but suddenly now he's the old man in the race. What does it mean for his campaign? I'm Harry Cole, and this is Never Mind the Ballots. Joining me to discuss the latest is Bob Mulholland, member of the Democratic National Committee, party strategist and long-term friend of Joe Biden. And alongside him is former advisor to Donald Trump, Sebastian Gorka. Welcome both. Let's start with you, Bob. Was this a dignified exit or the work of the Democratic machine?
Well, given the story that you just alluded to, that Trump had been bashing Biden as too old, now we got the American people say, who's the old guy in the race? And that's Trump. And the American people may not want an 83-year-old in his fourth year of the White House. So I think this was a good move. Obviously, it took a few days, but today is a new day, and today means lots of money coming in, and Kamala Harris will do very well this week, press-wise. She'll have the support of all the former presidents, as well as the delegates like myself to Chicago. And at some point this week, she'll name her vice president nominee, and we'll be full speed ahead. We got our convention August 19th.
Well, we'll come back to Harris in a moment, Bob. But was this the right thing to do for Biden? I mean, you know him. You've known him for years. He doesn't strike me as a man that doesn't go without a fight. Can you give a flavour of what's really been going on behind the scenes?
Well, sure, it was a tough decision by the president, but he always loved America, and he made a decision that he thought, okay, I now have COVID, because he got diagnosed with that a few days ago, and he was coughing away from what the press said. So I thought him and his family, his wife, and a few of his closest aides made a calculated time frame to decide this. And then on Sunday, popped it up, and boom, it's a new story. It's a new presidential race. And Trump is the old guy in the race. And this, I think, is great news politically, given that President Biden was down with COVID, so we don't need those kind of days of downtime. So I'm very pleased with the way this worked out.
Concerns about President Biden's mental ability, his gaffes, his performance on the world stage over the last few months, obviously the debate performance 3 weeks ago. This is a cover-up, isn't it? There's been a systematic cover-up at the heart of the White House to hide from the public and the world the true state of the president.
Absolutely false. It was a few months ago, a guy named Trump couldn't remember his wife's name. Now, I know he's had a lot of wives, so maybe that was the reason. But this president, Biden, is sharp every day. And, there's plenty of stories in the American media about foreign leaders and other staff meeting with Biden, and he's sharp as ever. Sure, he made some mistakes. He certainly had a bad night at the debate, as Ronald Reagan did in '84 and President Obama had in 2012. But both of them bounced back. But in this case, it's a generational.
But then why is he gone? If everything's fine, why is he pulled out?
Well, he made a political decision that, given his recent health issues, including COVID, and obviously Harris, as well as Trump, may get COVID down the road because it's spreading. I'll leave it to the presidential historians to figure out all the ins and outs of how this president made the decision. But as far as the American people are concerned, they woke up with a new nominee for the Democratic Party, and the money's rolling in. And I think the majority of Americans will ultimately decide on Harris as president.
Bob, stay there. I'm going to bring in Sebastian Gorka. Sebastian, this isn't great news for Trump, is it? He's got to completely rewrite his campaign strategy.
Not in the slightest. Struth, that bloke you introduced is an old friend of Joe Biden's. If that's a friend, what does an enemy look like? He's just cheering. We threw him under the bus. We threw him under the bus and we got more money. That's quite a guest you've got there, Harry. No, this is a woman who everyone knows is the diversity hire. She's only the vice president because she's black and she's a female. So what do Americans hate most than anything else? Diversity, the whole LGBTQ insanity being rammed down our throats. This is a woman. Let's just do the stats, okay? Couldn't garner 3% of the Democrat vote in the primary. Less than 3% of Democrats wanted her to be the president. This is delicious. This is superb. This woman is an absolute husk. She has no brain. Listen to her quoting all the little clips of her. I like school buses, do you? Venn diagrams are really cool. I'm a woman. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm wearing a blue jacket. Those are all actual quotes from this woman who's only there because she's a female and her skin palette is the right color. This is absolutely fabulous for the Trump campaign.
What happened to the call for unity in the wake of what happened in Pennsylvania 2 weeks ago? I thought we were going to see a different type of Trump campaign post Pennsylvania. That seems to have gone out the window today.
What has that got to do with winning an election? We want to win an election. Are we supposed to say, vote for her because she's a woman? I mean, seriously, there are questions and there are silly questions.
What about Trump, though? He's putting a brave face on this, but he would have much rather have taken on Joe Biden. He could run against his legacy and he could beat him around in the debates. He's not going to be able to do that now, is he?
Well, he is, because guess what? This is absolutely perfect. This woman, as I said, is massively unpopular with Democrats, especially with the Black American vote. Remember, she put more than 1,500 Black men in prison when she was the chief law enforcement officer for California. Why? Because they smoked weed. And then she has a podcast interview where she jokes about toking weed. This woman is a disaster for the Democrat Party. And on top of that, she isn't a new candidate. She hasn't been parachuted in from the outside. She is the vice president and has been for 3.5 years. Not only that, she was the point person, the czarina for the border. Oh, my dear Lord, this is the face of open borders. A woman who, according to the last 3.5 years of stats, has allowed more than 20 million illegals into the country. You think you've got problems in Blighty with your boat people. How about 20 million illegals coming into this country, several of whom have raped and murdered 12-year-old children? Okay, look it up. Look up the name of Jocelyn Nungare or Rachel Marin, the mother of 5 in Maryland, not far from where I'm sitting, brutally raped and murdered by illegals who were literally brought into the country by Joe Biden's policies when she was the czarina of the border. This campaign writes itself for us.
Bob, what do you say to that? The czarina of the open borders and the most unpopular vice president going. You backed her in 2020 ahead of Biden. What do you make of those claims?
This guy sounds like the perfect Trump, old white angry male. And I take personal distaste to what he said about diversity. I served in Vietnam. We had a lot of Americans there. It was very diverse because that's how the American draft worked. So I would hope the Republicans would stop attacking a woman just because she's a woman. I mean, what's the criticism of Trump? He's a male? No, I think this is a big mistake by the Republicans. And I'm glad you mentioned the word unity, because Trump last week kept saying, oh, we're going to have a new direction. No, I don't think so. I think that was just a scam on the American people. And I do hope politically that Trump and his allies like this guy continually attack the new president, in my opinion, Harris, for being a woman, because we as Democrats, we get most of our votes from women. And a lot of women, and I've seen this in past in a lot of focus groups and polling, women resent these kind of men who always try to get close to them and tower over them and yell at them and tell them, well, you're not really qualified, you're a woman. And that's what I hear from the Trump people. So I'm looking forward to this race.
Bob, you've not been afraid to take the gloves off in the past, though, and a bit of negative campaigning. Surely the Harris campaign's going to be down in the gutter with the Trump campaign kicking things around as well, right?
Well, we're not going to be playing patty cakes. We're going to go after Trump as the old man. Multiple marriages, multiple affairs, multiple kids with multiple women, and he was recently convicted for sexually assaulting a woman who he said was not my type, but he picked her out in a photo as one of his former wives. So yeah, we're going to be hitting hard. This ain't going to be no, oh, let's elect me. No, we're going to be pounding away on Trump, his record. You know, during his 4 years in the White House, Trump left the White House with fewer jobs in America than he started. The worst president Trump was since Herbert Hoover, the Great Depression. And we're going to be talking a lot about Trump and his record. We'll be going after him all over, and especially on reproductive rights. That's the main issue that's going to carry Harris into the White House.
Sebastian, does the former President Trump have a woman problem?
Yes,
your guest is calling me the old white man. Maybe he should look in the mirror. He's talking about the president's children and his wives. Yeah, that's what they're going to vote on in the ballot box. 20 million illegals, record inflation, petrol at record highs, wars in Europe, wars in the Middle East. This guy is a classic propagandist for the left. They're not going to vote because of his ex-wives, okay? You sad individual. They're going to vote because they can't afford to pay the rent. Mortgage payments have increased by 90% under Biden. That's what they'll be voting on. It's not going to be how many ex-wives the president has, but you carry on saying what you do, because that's how we trounce your diversity hire of a candidate in November the 5th. And by the way, nobody ever voted for Kamala Harris as their candidate. We've been told for 2 years, electing President Trump is the threat to democracy. Well, you just ripped up democracy and took a big old dump on it by saying you're going to select the candidate at your convention without one Democrat voter having elected her to be their candidate. That is the utter disdain the Democrats have for democracy.
Bob, sounds like it's heading towards a bit of a stitch-up in Chicago. Do you expect any other candidates to come forward on the Democrat side, or is it going to be crowning Kamala ASAP?
I think over the last 24 hours, you've seen a whole bunch of Democratic governors across America coming out, including my governor, Gavin Newsom, here in California. And I think this week, more governors come out today for Harris. So it'll be a united party going into Chicago. I expect a nice, clean, well-watched convention. And on August 22nd, Wednesday night, we as the delegates, 4,000 plus, will vote for Harris to be our nominee. And then on Thursday night, she'll give a speech. And my guess is it'll have more people watching than Trump. You know, Trump had a bigger audience watching in 2016 than he did in 2020 went down and 2024 went down. So Trump's on his way out. The American people are getting tired of this old white guy that keeps talking about, oh, when I'm president, it's the greatest country in the world. Well, as an American Vietnam vet, we are the greatest country in the world. And I'm tired of Trump and his Republicans saying we're not the greatest country in the world. We are the greatest country, and we're going to show that on November 5th when we elect Harris as president.
Talking, though, of audiences and television, where is President Biden? We haven't seen him for many, many days now. He releases this letter on Twitter that his wife retweets with a heart, and his granddaughter and his sons put out a statement. But where is the president? And when can the world expect to see him? And what's going on there?
Well, Biden was diagnosed with COVID, and he's taking the doctor's advice. When Trump was dealing with COVID, he advised the American people to drink bleach and do some kind of laser beam on your arms or something. So President Biden will be out this week when he's fully recovered, as the doctors share that information with him. You know, I assume they do daily tests. He's a normal American that's taking the doctor's advice. Trump, when he was in Walter Reed for COVID, had to get outside, to show he's still alive. And we have a president who actually responds to scientific evidence, actually responds to medical advice. You know, when I had COVID, I didn't go around. I didn't do interviews out in the street.
But do you not think the world needs to see the president? You know, there's a growing number of people who are slightly concerned about how this has played out in the last 24 hours. And the fact that, you know, the leader of the free world seems to be running the world by Twitter.
Well, I'll share that he's making phone calls. He's talking to Democratic governors around the state, around the country, and he's probably talking to foreign leaders. That's not an issue. He'll be on TV this week. Hold your horses, and people will be happy that he's fully recovered.
Sebastian Gorka, we expect to see the former President Trump soon. Have you spoken to him since what happened in Pennsylvania?
I've been texting with his family since what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. Yeah, this guy resigns by Twitter, and his White House team found out about it from Twitter the same day his campaign manager said, he's not going anywhere. My former boss was shot in the head 9 days ago, and he held a convention, and then he went to speak in Grand Rapids on Saturday. What a clown show. What an utter, complete clown show. I'm just buying shares in popcorn. I'm going to sit back and watch the Chicago convention be a piranha fest as Democrats eat each other and my president goes from strength to strength. Shot in the head, and he's opening the convention 2 days later. That's power. That's leadership. Oh, I'm going to resign via Twitter. That's who the Democrats have become. Utter, complete hatred of the people they say they represent. That's what that man is talking
Sebastian
about.
Gorka, though, his speech started well at the convention, but it did go on a bit, and it got a bit rambly once he did get off the auto cue. I mean, are you concerned that the sort of message discipline in the Trump campaign, it's been a very different Trump campaign we've seen from previous ones. He has been more disciplined. Is that slightly going to the wall now?
Let's just put this to correct historic perspective. This man is 25 years older than me. I've had training in the TA. He hasn't. His performance in Butler, as he's shot in the head by a bullet traveling at 3,000 feet per second, instantly understands what happens, ducks, and the Secret Service, he takes control of the Secret Service and says, no, I'm staying here, raises his fist, his head held high. We fight, we fight, we fight. That's indomitable. That's legendary. That's mythic levels of warrior DNA. And then what happens? He gives the longest nomination speech in history, even defeating Bill Clinton's speech. I mean, just legendary. And Americans see through it. That's why it was a capacity-only crowd in Grand Rapids. And that's why right now, in every single poll, he is trouncing the current senile incumbent, even in the battleground state. So say what you will about your interpretation. Real Americans understand what's at stake, who's destroying the country, and how they have to be ejected from office.
Bob, Kamala Harris has got a big shoes to fill in terms of, well, if Sebastian's correct in terms of her speech. Do you really think she's up for this? Is she ready? And she hasn't ever really been tested. She crashed out in the primaries before a single primary vote was even cast in 2020. She hasn't been the most front and centre vice president there's ever been. And she has a reputation also of, slightly strange gaffes when she speaks. Is she really ready to be the president of the United States?
Absolutely. Reagan crashed in the 76 primary, then he got 8 years. Al Gore crashed in 88, and then he became the vice president. Hey, let me just clarify. This guy keeps saying that Trump was shot in the head. He was nipped in the ear. He was not shot in the head.
I mean,
as one who was...
You're disputing whether the guy... a man fired a gun at him and a bullet hit him. I mean...
Absolutely. But as I said, I served in Vietnam. I was wounded by a mortar. I was shot up all over the place. Let's be clear here. It was a nip in the ear. So don't be exaggerating like Trump does. No, Harris was a prosecutor. So she's going to prosecute the case against Trump, especially on women's right to... Now, this guy that's probably got on is one of those Taliban spokespersons that, women have no rights to their own bodies. Well, we think...
Who is this
we
guest? Harry, who is this?
Come on.
He's calling me Taliban. Can we get rid of this clown?
Seb,
he's calling me Taliban. Harry,
Seb, come back on that. I mean, go on. Come on, Bob, stay there for a sec. Seb, are you the member of the Taliban on women's rights?
Harry, look, who is this clown you got on? He's saying being shot didn't really happen, and I'm a member of the Taliban. Screw yourself, you sad old sack. Screw you.
Well, okay,
you
all
are
right.
Perfect example of a lying
Let's cool it there.
Lying scum.
Sebastian, let's cool it there. I think we've seen a glimpse into the future of this campaign in the next 4 months in America.
Harris has prosecuted many people.
They call people they disagree with the Taliban, Harry. That's who the Democrats are. That's who the Democrats are.
Gents, let's leave it there. I think we've all had our say. You two both, Bob Mulholland, Sebastian Gorka. Come back again soon if you fancy it. I mean, we can have this rounds and rounds of this in the next 4 months, but it sounds like they're going to be pretty crazy. Anyway, that's all from us on our Never Mind the Ballots US special. Remember to subscribe, youtube.com/somepolitics, and we'll keep it heated. Bye-bye.